Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. So this video we put out as a Patreon exclusive, deeper dive into the Ukrainian war funding, which is in some cases going to places that you wouldn't expect. It's all being exposed right now, and yet that clock is ticking, or the sands are dropping from the hourglass to the onset of WW3, which if we can hopefully wake up enough people fast enough, maybe it won't come to pass. Let's put that out there.
Yes, let's toss it out there and see.
What I wanted to touch on was another myth that basically says the same thing as what we've seen out of the Sumerian tales, and we've touched on others, like perhaps maybe you're aware of different tribal legends and myths from Africa or North America that talk about all sorts of interesting things, including shape-shifting reptilians. Paul Anthony Wallace, he is on Fifth Kind TV. He's on Gaia. He works with Mauro Bellino often. He also works with Matthew LaCroix often. He's put out a series of books that are very fast, easy reads, very enjoyable. And, I would definitely recommend them. I'll give you guys the link. He touches on some personal stories and his own personal interactions, because he is somebody that really has traveled the world in search of answers and uncovering things. The difference that we have is we have Cindy with her amazing gifts and ability to tap in and ask people on the other side, so to speak, what has happened, and reach a variety of different guides and tap into the Akashic records to see for ourselves. What I want to show you is just how this world is always changing, but yet there is this system that's been in control of our past several thousand years, and this control is cyclical. It's part of the cycle of the Yugas, and we are going into a period of time, thankfully, where things are going to be a little bit more out in the open, and humanity that chooses to do so will be more free than we have been in the past. When we look to Hawaii, these little quakes that you're seeing right here, this is Hawaii. Hawaii is so isolated in so many ways. This is not, look at this island change, all volcanic. And when you look at where it is, it would be hard to understand how they could use certain words that are almost identical to certain tribes in Africa, using the same terms for the same sort of beings and situations as they're talking about here in Hawaii. And then also very, very similar to what we see coming out of Mesoamerica, and even in some cases down in Southeast Asia. Maybe this is the easier one to visualize, but when you think about how could you have people using the same terms to talk about things from Africa and the Middle East, and really giving you a replay of the same exact stories. But we've seen that too. We've seen the same reptilian figurines found in Mexico and identical over here in the Middle East. And with science telling us, again, that nobody possibly could have traveled between those places in the ages past. No. Again, what we've shared is that there's been very, very advanced peoples on this planet. Extraterrestrials lived amongst us. In fact, they do live amongst us in all the ages besides the Dark Age, openly, because there are some here, absolutely. And then ultimately, we are all seeded here from elsewhere. So it was interesting because in his book, The Invasion of Eden, he talks about a personal story with a Hawaiian that he's meeting with an elder that's holding on to their legends. Again, often the indigenous people of the world, because they've been so persecuted, they won't openly and easily share their stories. And this is why they have been persecuted, because they have the knowledge of the true origin of this system. When we talk about the system that has conquered the world, basically, that has perhaps originated in the Fertile Crescent through the Caucasus Mountains area, which again is what we're talking about with modern-day Iraq, up into the area of Turkey and Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Iran. This area appears to be the origin point all the way down to Kuwait here of the system itself. It seems like it settled in here and then expanded outward, conquering other extraterrestrial beings that were living more harmoniously with the indigenous people on the planet. And this is, again, the war of the gods that is so clearly spoken of in the Hindu texts, the war between the Asuras, the invading demonic host of basically these users, for lack of a better term, because they will absolutely use and abuse everything that they conquer. They put themselves up as gods and take whatever it is that they want. They were the invaders in our more recent times, where those that we talk of as devas are those that are in alignment with the natural order and would gently guide and gently teach and instruct, but without imposing anything on humanity and the beings on the planet.
Yes, so there's definitely a force on this planet that really does not play fair in any way, shape, or form. But the other energies that are working with this planet really, truly understand life, and they understand karma, and they understand what it means to take a human form. They cherish that. So, we have some beings that are not very nice, and other beings that are trying to help if we choose to ask for help.
So, legends of the national parks. Look at this. I love this. Don't you love this? The Mo'o. This is a quote-unquote mythological being, and encounters with the Mo'o water guardians go back hundreds of years, thousands of years. Physical traits resembles a giant gecko lizard, but may appear as a dragon or may appear as a human. Special powers: has the ability to shapeshift into whatever form it desires. Oh, isn't that curious?
Very curious, yes.
Hello, David Icke. David Icke, is David Icke in the house?
I know, he had it right for years.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you'll get people that try to dissuade and say, well, hey, all you're banking on is one person like a Zechariah Sitchin for your info. No. If you look into every single culture around the world and on every continent, you will find these repeating stories. The system has expanded out. The system was the Roman Empire. The system was the British Empire. The system's been the American Empire, and it will be whatever it manifests into next. Except for this timing is different, because this is where everything kind of gets revealed. Shape-shifting reptilians, shape-shifting dragons, beings that look like dragons, feathered serpents, right? Quetzalcoatl, Kulkan. You see, we've learned so much in really like the last, I want to say, about the last 5 to 10 years. So much has been revealed that shows that, again, somebody like David Icke was way, way ahead of his time. And this is the story that is not a modern invention. It's not dependent on Project Bluebeam. Again, humans have not seen the real sky in thousands of years. It's been a construct, and there are all sorts of technological glitches going on right now where people are catching all sorts of odd phenomena up in the sky that is revealing this has been an illusion the whole time. The whole time. And you have all these different legends, and you have the personification of natural forces, but then you also have just the opposite going on, where actual beings are being represented sometimes as if they are forces of nature. And yet, never the two shall meet. They will meet. And there has to be this understanding going on that these myths and legends have been so intertwined and distorted on purpose. Just like when you look at Genesis 6, that gives you that little tidbit, but you may think, oh, we got all the answers now. We found the book of Enoch. No. Go deeper. Go farther. You got to look all around the world. Shape-shifting reptilians that can take on all sorts of forms, can change from looking like a dragon into looking very much like a human, maybe even a beautiful maiden that is swimming around like a mermaid in the water. Ah, yes. And then you have all these legends of, sailors being seduced by these mermaids, and then they go missing. Well, in some cases, maybe they were dinner. Yeah, that's the reality behind the fact. And it's interesting to see, these legends are all out there, but we just kind of, as a culture, we are encouraged to laugh them off and think there's nothing really there.
They love that. That's their favorite game. They instill that from childhood. So people think it's truly ridiculous, but the truth of the matter is, the truth comes from people who really, were given a hard time. Poor David Icke, he was given such a hard time in the mainstream. And this information is really important. And I think the silly thing is our mainstream education, our mainstream religion, why can't this be it? I mean, why can't this information be put in the mainstream? Why are more people not taught to ask these questions? And it's to keep this stuff on the down low, but I think it's our job to come in and start asking questions so other people can hear us, because the playing field is a little bit uneven right now.
But it is being leveled, at least for those that are willing to look, and those that have the courage to face up with the indoctrination that they've received, and they have the courage and the bravery to say, I'm willing to delve down this path, and if it is earth-shaking to my reality, then I shall reshape my reality. So, in one of the most famous legends of ancient Hawaii, Pele, the volcano goddess, sends her youngest sister. Now, these words may give me a problem. Haiaka, to rescue a mortal lover. 3 mo'o, supernatural lizards, have captured Pele's sweetheart and hold him hostage in a cave on Kauai. Thus, his mission involves a second errand, dragon slaying. Here we go again, dragon slaying. I mean, we see it all over the place. These stories are all so similar. So as Haiaka travels island to island, she encounters many mo'o. In the windward island cliffs of Molokai, a young goddess and her attendant, Wahine Oma'o, come to an impassable ravine. As they ponder how to proceed, a slender plank appears. She starts across, but Hiaka recognizes the bewitched bridge for what it is, a tongue of the man-eating Mo'o Kikipua. Spanning the gorge with her magical pa'u skirt, Haiaka chases the lizard to its lair and kills it. Dragons, lizards, deities, whatever form it used to invoke them, the mo'o rank among Hawaii's most mysterious mythical creatures. They figure into the oldest Hawaiian stories, and they're a key to deep, nearly forgotten magic. Most of the legends of them are female shapeshifters capable of appearing as beautiful maidens or water dragons. They dwell in caves, pools, fish ponds, fierce guardians of freshwater sources, according to 19th century Hawaiian historian Samuel Kamakau. When fires were lit on altars near their home, they would appear. 12 to 30-foot long reptiles. Wow. Black as night, glistening in the water. If given a drink of awa, they would turn from side to side like the keel of a canoe. These legends are just so fascinating to look at, and to realize too that there's always something in there to really gain and take note of. They are said to have profound powers. They are omniscient. They can manipulate the weather. Hello. Through their intent, or is it through technology? Is it basically calling the motherships to turn on certain, satellites, so to speak, and certain technologies? Very interesting. Even their disembodied tongues and tails have potency. The more vicious among their tribe have been known to summon giant waves to sweep trespassers from trails or drown victims in pits of poisonous phlegm. But not all are malevolent. Many are beloved protectors who lend aid to their devotees. At one time, fish ponds and pools through Hawaii had stone markers signifying their resident mo'o. Ancient Hawaiians believed that if a mo'o guardian received proper nurture, she would respond in like manner, ensuring fat harvest and healthy stream flow. If she were neglected, she would wreak havoc. The underlying philosophy was respect for the land, a basic tenet of Hawaii culture. So it goes into a lot of the stories, but it is interesting to see. Again, what we have is throughout time a blending of remembrance of the natural with that of the invading forces that came later.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely two clear levels to me. I see one level that is very natural and another level that is very much created or trying to be a copy of the natural, and utilize these energies for their own gain. But this world is the base law principle is symbiosis. Everything acts on symbiotic nature, a symbiotic wavelength. That is the way existence works on this planet in particular. And I do see the controllers try ever so hard to recreate this, but they're never really going to quite get it. I think it's a game to them. It's like a craving. It's something that they need to do. I don't think they actually logically look at it in the sense where they'll be able to truly accomplish that carbon copy of this planet on a symbiotic level. But it is something that they definitely inquire to do quite often.
So this takes me back to Owans and Dagon that we were talking about. In the book, Paul is comparing the stories. And again, this fish god literally, again, shape-shifting reptilian, perhaps. Some of them are more dark than others. That's the basic underlying thing. And when you look to the Sumerian stories too about the disagreements that happen with those that we call the Anunnaki over how to handle humanity, some just want to wipe humanity completely out. Others don't. Others are a little bit more inclined to take a different approach. Yet recognize that all those that we would call asuras in the Hindu view of things. They are beings that, again, they're primarily out for themselves, and they are not in alignment with the natural orders. So I do think what they'll do, and what part of the plan is to make, the Enlilites out to be the bad guys, good cop, bad cop, Enkyites out to be the good guys, so to speak. But the reality is it still will be the controllers that they will show us. But somebody like an indigenous Hawaiian elder would understand, and again, those that are actively engaging and activating their light body and developing what we would call the psychic senses, you'll be able to perceive. That'll be pretty clear.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you do develop these abilities, it's not very easy to deceive any longer when the thing that you're tapping into is a feeling and an emotion and something that you have the natural ability to read and process and understand. So, like, people who are activated definitely pose a problem for the controllers.
Yeah, there's another, let's see, this is going down. Well, we could just even do this right here at Wiki. Haldi, supreme war god, and this is from Armenia, as we were talking about Armenia, and you see him standing on the lion there again. What we find with this, and the Armenians will talk about themselves as being the people of Haldi in many ways. This is a legend that's very old, and in fact, when we look at certain names, there are names that pop up that are every bit as old as Anu, and Enlil and Enki, and perhaps even older than Marduk and some of the others, as far as being first mentioned when we talk about these Sumerian beings. What these people are, though, these are invaders, and these are the ones that took over, and these are the ones that instilled the system, whether we're talking Haldi or when you look to the legends of Oans and Dagon. Again, what do? Well, they teach us a lot of things. They do teach us, basics of agriculture, etc. At least this is what the legends are saying. But at the same time, before they were here, there was such an abundance that we didn't really have a need. This is the thing, that before they came, the earth was way more abundant, and we didn't really have to work to make food, per se. Food was everywhere. In fact, oxygen was in much more supply than it is now. And it's fascinating to find that we could jump over to Hawaii and we see details that are fascinating with these, again, shape-shifting reptilian beings. Very, very fascinating. So I'm going to give you a little excerpt again from Paul's book, and when we talk about the syllabus brought by Owans and others, again, meaning what did they teach us? It's an overlay of the systems of money, banking, record keeping, lawmaking, as well as things like recipes for beer, believe it or not. Yeah, it's all right there. Their intervention carried the Proto-Sumerians as well beyond the ambit of ecology and sustainable farming into the realm of specialized society, civil engineering, complex cities, economy building. It wasn't about nurturing harmony with the environment. It was about redefining the environment, canalizing the landscape, engineering new ecosystems, and moderating the larger populations those systems can now support. It was also about drawing people out of the countrysides into the cities where they could be controlled. And so nothing is new here. This is just what the system does. Think about the Roman canal system. Think about Romans demanding tribute from all the tribes they conquered, even also demanding that those tribes give them citizens, young males typically, to become part of their war force and their policing force as we approach another draft in our history. In the 21st century, we can only read of the Owan story of social development in the light of everything that's happened since. Yes, absolutely, as the system always tries to distort and to make it look like certain things have no real relevance. And, again, these are just myths and legends. There's no basis in fact. But the Hawaiian elder that he's interviewing explains that when the Mo'o changed the environment, it was to advantage themselves as the proprietors of human society at the expense of the human population at large. So what they did was literally terraform Earth to suit themselves and to absolutely shorten the lifespan of humans. Because in the Hawaiian legends, they also explain that things grew larger, people grew bigger, people had longer, healthier lives. They simply say there was more oxygen in the air that we breathed, and the waters were pure, and everything food-wise was abundant. It's very, very clear that these shape-shifting reptilians are the ones that brought about this shift in the planet. Again, there are many legends of the moon being brought into place and people remembering a time before the moon was there. And the tilt of the earth is not a natural tilt. This is part of what the system has done to bring about extremes of weather, because the weather was basically gentle and very nurturing for life. So when we see all these storms and all the floods and everything, this all is the system bringing this in. And the other thing that they brought in, and it's interesting too, because they also call the people that work in this system the Anunu. Think about that. This is Hawaii. This is Hawaii calling those controllers Anunu, Anunnaki, Anunu, Anuna. Again, the root word is the same. And this is Hawaii. But one of the other things that he gets into is that they know, these Hawaiian elders know that they have kin in Africa, that they have kin in, say, places like Fiji and Tahiti over in South Pacific over there. And in fact, this was a global society, a single global society. And they even speak of a time when all the lands were joined and there was only one ocean. This is amazing in so many ways, because they're either holding on to hundreds of millions of years of history, or the changes that come about far faster than what we think, far faster. And in fact, they talk about the fact that the continents, ultimately we go back to Pangea, and there really was only one continent. This gets me thinking about expanding Earth theory, and the fact that the Earth is expanding perhaps far faster than we understand. And it is literally separating everybody as far as by miles farther apart, to farther away from each other than was in the past, where people could move from place to place much easier. But Anunu brought greed. They brought greed. They taught greed. And this is the people that are the most beneficial to the systems. They are the ones that are greedy because they can utilize them. So they brought greed. In our language, we think of the Anunu, we think of the greedy ones. That's literally what it translates to. They viewed our land's resources with greed, and they taught us to do so, to divide and to compete with each other instead of working together. They set us one against the other instead of living in harmony and looking after each other. We were taught to be self-centered and to fight each other as rivals. When the Anunu came, they took the land on which we had all lived freely and privatized it. Our traditional patterns of living on the land and parceling it out were regarded as meaningless. Ownership by the Mo'o Anunu took priority. They divided the land when they said, well, we were there, okay, which they said was theirs, and they would distribute it as they saw fit. Now, there's biblical echoes in this. Again, Deuteronomy 32:8, Psalm 82 is referring to this same thing. And people will quote that thinking that they're talking about something that's good. Look, when God did this. No, these are reptilian, shape-shifting, dark, diabolical, greedy, self-centered beings that have been abusing humanity and the planet the entire time. So why would you shower them with love and praise? Yeah, well, because they're harvesting the energy when you do praise them. This is what the spires are. This is what the churches being on ley lines is. The Anunu introduced money, and with it, they enslaved us. The moment we agreed to the value of their tokens, he calls them tokens, which they called money, that was the moment we lost our freedom. The whole meaning of our lives changed on that day. Now, everything we did had to be done for the purpose of acquiring the tokens, which the Anunu provided. In a later time, a colonizing king called Pa'auhau ruled over us. He built on these principles of hierarchy and law. He is the one who introduced the Kapu system of law. Break them, and you would suddenly feel the authority of the hierarchy. Keep breaking them, and you would be taken away by the hierarchy and killed. That was the law. So this is the origins of the system. The system that we have was not given to us from a benevolent being on high. No, it was given to us by shape-shifting reptilian entities that basically stole the planet from us.
And they wouldn't be able to get their way unless they severely twisted the information that is fed to us. And they wouldn't be able to get their way unless they were able to control our belief system to the very highest degree. And once you wake up and you start asking questions, you become a problem. Your frequency changes, everything about you changes. And, you might find that life might give you a couple of extra roadblocks or bumps here and there. It's definitely something that they don't want, but this really lays it out quite nicely. I like how this was represented. To me, it's very, very true, and it's also a cycle. There is nothing new under the sun.
Absolutely. So, again, every corner of the world, we find these same stories. They're all over. This is why this system has branched out and has abused the indigenous people of the world. This is why we had the genocide of hundreds of millions of North and Central and South Americans, as well as Aboriginals and indigenous people all around the world. It's the system protecting itself. Then they give us their version of living, everything from our banking system, military system, keeping us divided. Again, this explains also that Tower of Babel. Got to keep people competing and dividing against each other, and they won't even notice that, there's string pullers in the shadows the whole time.
Indeed.
As always, guys, look forward to your comments. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.